صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. طب القلوب ودوائها ونور أبصارها، وعلى أهل بيته الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. صل على محمد. For the love of Abba Abdullah al-Hussein, with the loudest of our voices, Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad. For the love of Sayyida Zainab, with the loudest of our voices, Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. First of all, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again for gracing us with this moment to celebrate the birth anniversary of the beloved daughter of Imam Amir and the Lady of Light. My felicitation goes to the Imam of our time on this auspicious occasion, and second felicitation goes to our scholars, and third felicitation goes to each and every one of you, brothers and sisters, lovers and followers of Ahlul Bayt, on the arrival of Sayyida Zainab to this world. The ayah I've just quoted from glorious Quran is Quran 24, verse 36 and 37. That is Surah An-Nur. This ayah of glorious Quran talks about the importance of a house or home. And departing from this ayah, my discussion of tonight will be a lesson from the life of Sayyida Zainab alayha salam. We will inshallah look at a bit of her biography and take at least one lesson from the biography of this great lady for us to try as much as we can to implement it in our lives. As I always mention repeatedly, that when we celebrate the lives of these great personalities, the essence of all these celebrations and commemorations is to pick up a lesson or two from their lives. And not just to pick up those lessons, but to be able to see to the implementation of those lessons in your lives. Their lives are like pivotal or central to our lives. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala expects us to take them as our role models, as those people that we look and check and assess whether we are on the right track or not. So inshallah, we're going to look at the birth of Sayyida Zainab and her relationship with the Holy Prophet and her relationship with Bibi Fatima and her relationship with Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam Hassan if time permits. Otherwise, we'll leave it for next time. And out of all these, there will be just one lesson that I want us to learn. That is the lesson of creating a conducive home for our children to grow. Because today there are so many challenges out there. And with the implementation of the new curriculum of RCE, I see parents, some are reacting, some are shouting, some are crying. But all this shouting and crying, I don't think will help anything. What will help is to sit and pause as parent, as father, as mother, to say, what can I do to minimize the danger of all these things? If you feel there are dangers there. What can I do to bring my child to be a good child? To be a child that not only I can be proud of him or her, but the community or the society will be proud of that child. And these, as Muslims, we need to know it in advance. We need to know that Islam has given us these children as amanat. And each and every one of us will be questioned how you bring your children. I always mention it's not about money that you bring to your child. It's not about the food. It's the value that you instill in your children. That values will stay with them in dunya and akhirah. And you will benefit from those values. And the communities entirely will benefit from those values. All of us are busy trying to make money. We are busy trying to make names. We are busy trying to become famous. When we have forgotten the most important thing is to instill at least one or two values in our children so that those children can be useful and productive to our communities and to our societies. So it's important when we examine the life of Sayyidah Zainab to realize that what made Zainab Zainab is the home from which Zainab came from. It's important. If we discuss about Amir al-Mu'mineen or we discuss about Hasanain, one thing we cannot forget is their homes, where they came from. Their parents, their fathers, their mothers, they played crucial and critical roles in their lives for them to be where they are. So if I and you claim to be their lovers and followers, so the first thing to do is to create a spiritual environment for our children. Madrasas, schools, they are there just to complement the amount of effort parents put in homes. But if today madrasa has become a babysitting area, we introduce our children to gadgets because we think they are means of babysitting so that we can deal with our lives. That's where the problem comes. It's not the curriculum. It's not the system. It's you. So therefore, come with me. Let's walk through the life of Sayyidah Zainab and learn this lesson from her. I begin by looking at the way she was born. And you know, there are two personalities. Whenever we describe the way they were born, it looks like tragedy or eulogy. It looks like gamma, as we see. Imam Hussein and Bibi Zainab. No doubt she is the first daughter of the house. And you know, when a house is blessed with daughter, how everybody becomes happy in the house. And no wonder the Holy Prophet mentioned, one of the signs of the success of a person is when his first child is a daughter. A daughter is rahmah, and son is ni'mah. Now, when Bibi Zainab alayha salam, the first daughter and the third child of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima al-Zahra, salawat. The Holy Prophet visited the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, next to each other, next door. When he visited the house, Bibi Fatima gave Bibi Zainab to the Holy Prophet. Prophet took Zainab and he placed Zainab on his chest. And then, narration mentioned, he placed his face on the face of Zainab. Then the Holy Prophet began to cry. As he was crying, Bibi Fatima was witnessing the tears from the eyes of the Holy Prophet. So Bibi Fatima asked the Holy Prophet, Mimma buka'uk? La abkallahu aynaka ya abata. What makes you cry? I don't want to see these tears on your face, oh my beloved father. May Allah not make you shed tears on a happy day like today when I'm celebrating the arrival of my daughter. But what was the response of the Holy Prophet? He said, Ya binta, ya Fatima. Oh my beloved daughter, oh Fatima. Allahu Akbar. Inna li hadhihi al-bint, referring to Zainab alayha salam. Indeed, it will happen to this daughter mu'anat, problems and challenges. وَتَرِدُ عَلَيْهَا مَصَائِبْ, tragedies will pour on her. وَرَزَايَا أَدْهَا, and so many pains will come the way of this daughter. Then he said, Ya bid'ati ya qurrata aini, O part of me and the comfort of my eye, meaning Rasulullah referring to Bibi Fatima. Man baka alayha wa ala musabi'a, whoever cries and shed tears for her and shed tears for whatever will be happening to her, yakunu lahu thawabun ka thawabi man baka ala akhwayha. That person will be granted reward like the reward of the one who would cry for what happened to her two brothers. But you know very well, the Holy Prophet spent the first 5 years of Sayyidah Zainab. Which Sayyidah Zainab? In other words, the first 5 years was under the care of the Holy Prophet of Islam. This is where I want to draw your attention, especially the young parents. You know, when a child grows, there are two fundamental elements that parents should look for. When they spot those two elements in their children, they should capitalize on them and make sure those two elements take the children to the highest level of growth. First one is intelligence, and the second one is early maturity. You remember there was a night of Imam al-Jawad when I discussed the difference between early maturity and inspiration. You as a parent, when your children grow, watch them. If you spot that this child is growing early, then pay attention. Or if the child is very intelligent, pay attention. So how do you spot early maturity? I mentioned it, but just quickly to be on the same wavelength. Every child who is of early maturity is intelligent. But not every intelligent child is growing earlier. So how do you spot early maturity? Number one, suratul istiqbal. The child captures quickly. You will say something here like you playing. The next day you will hear your child mentioning it. It means this boy or this girl, you have to pay attention to what you say. It's growing quickly. Second is suratul faham. The child understands easily. You don't have to struggle to make the child understand. You just mention one or two things, you realize your child is taking it, picking it up. And the third thing, just to spot that this child is really growing quicker and earlier, is qudrat al-jam'i wa taqsim. That when you give the child some complicated task, like you buy something like say aeroplane and it has been dismantled, you bring it to home and you see your child is able to assemble it within a short space of time, And then you know this child is very dangerous. But positive danger, isn't it? And then of course the last one is quwwatul hajj, the power of the intellect of the child, whereby your child can ask you some very difficult question. Today most of the children are like that. Sometimes they will ask you a question you never thought that your child is able to ask you that type of a question. Now if you spot that, Islam encourages you to create home for that child. And so scholars come forward and said, if you're talking of any other child, what of the child of the lady who was born from the fruit of Jannah? And the child whose father is the door of the city of knowledge. It means that house is not a joke. Here I'm talking of my house and your house. That you have to create a home. And I'll tell you what is home. So one of the home where the father is Babu Madinat al-Ilm and the mother is a qit'atun min al-Jannah. Now there is an ayah in Surah An-Nur which I quoted earlier on. Quran 36. This is where we're going to understand the relationship of Rasulullah and Sayyidah Zainab. Allah says in this ayah, fi buyutin adhina Allah an turfa'a fiha wa yuzkar fi asmuh yusabbihu lahu fiha bil ghuduwi wal asal. Allah said in houses where we are permitted, or where his names are permitted to be exalted and to be remembered day and night. When Rasulullah recited this ayah in Medina, one companion of Rasulullah said, Rasulullah, which house is Allah talking about? The Rasulullah responded, Buyutul Anbiya. Allah is referring to the houses of the prophets. The narration mentioned one of the companions just stood up in the mosque of Prophet. Then he pointed to the house of Imam Ali and the house of Bibi Fatima. He said, is this house part of the house you are talking about? Then he said, Hiya min afdaliha. Said this house is the best of those houses. That is the house of Zainab alayha salam. Zainab came from that house. What is this house? Brothers and sisters, young parents, home is crucial in upbringing children. If you as father and mothers, you don't know how to create spiritual home for your children and thinking that they will learn at school, or they will learn at madrasa, or they will learn at Imam Bara, then you will lose it. Home is the first call for child upbringing. Bibi Zainab is Bibi Zainab because of the home Amir and Bibi Fatima created for her. What is a home in Islam? Not to take a long time here. Home, according to Islam, not your interpretation, my interpretation, is a place where Allah is being remembered the most. Home in Islam is not a place where a child is confused with music. Home in Islam is not a place where when father and mother sit, they backbite and gossip about others. Islamic home is a home where parents remind their children of their duties to Allah. Whether the children are lazy or ready to do, but they always lead by example. Islamic home is a home where before you ask your daughter and your son to read Quran, they see you reading Quran. Islam say you must create a home where you don't force your children to go to madrasa, but they see you father and mother making madrasa priority in that house. Fi buyutin adhin Allah. Zainab is Zainab because of the house Amir and Fatima created for her. If you truly want to become a true follower of Zainab, then wallah, I am not joking, I'm serious about this. Know how you create a home for your children. Let them see you praying. They will do insha'Allah. Let them see you loving Allah. You see, our problem. All of us, we introduce our children to money more than the way we introduce them to Allah. We think that when we show them money, that's everything. But there is a danger in that. If they don't get that anymore, they may cause you sleepless nights, as it is happening today. Many of us, the home we are creating for our children, I want you to become a doctor. Inshallah, Yam Fatimiyya, I will discuss about tarbiyah. I want you to become a doctor. I want you to become this. They forget about tazkiyah. Let's learn from Ahlul Bayt. Now let's look at that relationship between Bibi and the Holy Prophet of Islam. First 5 years. If you truly want to know that you've done your part in bringing your son and your daughter, you'll see the values of Islam that your son and daughter see in you will be emanating from their mouths. Rasulullah loved Bibi Fatima, and the love of Fatima was transferred to the children of Fatima, especially the first daughter of Fatima, because Fatima was the Kawthar of Rasulullah. So he had that powerful and strong relationship with Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. We need to learn from this. Out there is too cold. It's not easy, my brother. If you think it's easy, then you are wasting your time. It's not easy. The world is becoming confused day by day. Your time was so easy. My time is easy. Our children, what they're going to face in the coming days is not easy. But if you play your part and you do your well in playing your part, Allah will take charge of that. When they go to varsities, they are not going with you. When they spend that 5-6 hours at school, they are not with you. But if you create that home, it will be good. So look at Zainab al-Rasulullah. Very young Zainab alayhi salam. She would narrate what she used to hear Rasulullah teaching people as she was sitting next to Rasulullah. One common tradition which we all know about Rasulullah and Bibi Fatima and Amir al-Mu'minin. That tradition, if you go and look at the chain of transmission, you realize that it was reported by Zainab alayhi salam. What is that tradition? Zainab reported by Hamza to Tusi, he reported that one day my father prayed behind the Holy Prophet. You need a child like that, isn't it? Who will say, hey, my father liked to pray. My mother always Quran. My father always charity. That is good. These are values. She said when they finished praying, this riwayah. Rasulullah looked at Imam Amir and he said, Hal indakum tu'amun? Amir, do you have food in the house? I want to come as your guest tonight. What was the response of Amir al-Mu'minin? Lama akul mundu thalathati ayyamin. I've not eaten for the past 3 days. I've not eaten doesn't mean that there was no water there. It means proper meal wasn't there. Then what was the response of Rasulullah? Imdi bina ila binta Fatima. Said, then take us to my daughter Fatima. Zainab is narrating. She said, I witnessed, I saw it. Rasulullah then spoke to Fatima. Hal indaki shay'un min at-ta'am? Fatima, do you have something of food for me to eat? Fatima kept quiet. Rasulullah said, Fidaki abuk. May your father be sacrificed for you, Fatima. That's a relationship. Zainab was witness to that. Then, of course, narration told us the food just came down to Fatima. And Rasulullah said, I thank Allah that in my family there is the like of Zakaria and Maryam. But my point here is what? Zainab at the age of 5, you see, the children today are very smart, Habibi. Don't take things for granted. Some of us, we introduce our children very early to phones. No, it's the world. Who told you it's the world? It's you. Child crying, they give him phone so he can stop crying. This is wrong. Unlimited internet. That's it. Then you cry? Habibi. You have to know when to introduce them to internet, when to introduce them to phone. Today, there is this play game. You know these games? There is this game they call Fortnite. Parents, if they don't want to stress, they put the children, they say, you play. Later we'll sort you. I've been to places, I saw children, weekend, Saturday, Sunday, wallah, they playing it throughout. But if you introduce to them, it's difficult to take it away. As they grow, as young as they are from infancy, you have to understand the stages of upbringing. But once you introduce them and you take it away, then you're going to cause fitna. So these are very, very important. So the first thing is that Zainab had that relationship with Rasulullah. To such an extent, she could narrate from Rasulullah. Look at her relationship with her beloved mother, Bibi Fatima. And you know very well, naturally, there is a bond between mother and her daughter. Even psychologically, this has been proven. That mother is an ocean of love, compassion, and emotion. And daughter needs that. And she gets that more from her mother than her father. That's why you see there is that strong bonding between mother and her daughter. Some scholars said the reason for that is that because of the agenda. They share gender together. But Bibi Fatima had that very strong relationship with her daughter Zainab alayhi salam. And if you want to see the relationship, Zainab narrated so many things from her beloved mother, Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. One of the common narration which we all know, that Bibi Fatima would pray for her neighbors before the people of the house, isn't it? When she was asked how, she said neighbor first. This report was first narrated by Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. That's the relationship she had with her beloved mother, Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. And no doubt Zainab narrated, she said, my mother told me, you see this is the relationship, when she gave birth to my brother Hussein, our grandfather came. She said, my mother told me, when he came to the house, my mother said, I gave Hussein to my daughter, to Rasulullah. فَنَاوَلْتُهُ إِيَّا. When I gave to him, what happened? Said Rasulullah looked at Hussein. Said, هَذَا إِمَامٌ وَابْنُ الْإِمَامِ. Said, this is Imam and the son of Imam. So I'm trying to say that, look, they had this relationship that they could teach something and they could tell her something and she was able to narrate it to us. But now, her relationship with Amir al-Mu'mineen is very emotional and painful relationship. You know the life of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam moved to Basra. And from Basra, he moved to Kufa and settled in Kufa. All this journey, Imam was his children. So when they were in Basra, when Imam was about to move to Kufa, the first person who moved with some entourage, with some group of lovers of Imam Ali, was Abdullah ibn Ja'far, the husband of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. He was the first one to move to Kufa. So when he moved to Kufa, then later on, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen moved with his family. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Now you see, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, when they moved to Kufa, you know Kufa, there was Darul Imara. Those of you who have been to Kufa, you know Darul Imara. Darul Imara used to be like the palace of a king, the then leader who used to be there. So when Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen moved to Kufa, there was no any leader at that time. So Imam Ali settled at Darul Imara. And at Darul Imara, Imam Hassan had his own place. Imam Hussein, Bibi Zainab with her family had their own place. But you see, the year in which Imam Amir left this world, what Imam did in that Ramadan was to rotate houses of his children for iftar. So he'd go to Imam Hassan, had iftar. Imam Hussein would have iftar. And then he'll come. The last house he went, and he had to be struck that night, was the house of Zainab alayhi salam. The house of Abdullah ibn Ja'far. Historians mention that shows the relationship Amir al-Mu'mineen had with Zainab. But al-Mu'min Imam was in that house. Zainab narrates what transpired between her and Amir al-Mu'mineen on that night. She said, my father came. We all had iftar. Brothers left. And all of a sudden, at night, my father called me. And he said, go and call all your brothers. When they came, he said to them, رَأَيْتُ فِي هَذِهِ اللَّيْلَ مَنَامًا هَالَتْنِي وَأُرِيدُ أَنْ أَقُصَّهَا عَلَيْكُمْ. So I've seen a scene tonight which really shook me, and I want to share it with you. So Bibi Zainab said, I asked my father, what is it that you want to share with us? And the father said, I saw the Holy Prophet, and he informed me that I'm joining him. So Bibi Zainab said, my father, after that conversation, would be between ruku and sujood. Look at the daughter. She could tell us what the father was doing. This upbringing of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. She said, then all of a sudden I saw him came out and he looked at the sky and he began saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And he would say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Then he came in and he called me. He said, Zainab, I'm going to take a bit of sleep. When Azan approaches, come wake me up. Zainab said, I looked at my father. I'm just trying to demonstrate to you, you need to have that kind of relationship where you instill the values of Islam in your children. It's important, especially to our young parents. It's crucial. Say, Father, I've never seen you like this. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen said, look, Zainab, I participated in so many battles. I dealt with so many tyrants. But I was never shaken like tonight. Then she asked him why. He said, no, because I am preparing to meet my Lord. Values instill in your children. That is very, very important. And of course, if you go, I don't want to go there, then it becomes Masahib. Up until the end, she had that long conversation at that night. Up until the end, he was telling her how the ghusl should be performed on him. This is the kind of relationship Islam wants us to have with our children. We have to instill the love of Allah. Challenges are there, I mentioned. But we have to do our part, reminding our children of Islam, reminding them of Islamic values. These are very, very important. Otherwise, you see, we will keep reacting like the way we are in our communities. People like to react. We fold our arms. We do nothing about things. When something happens, people jump from pillar to post. Everybody is passing fatwa. We need to prepare in advance before something comes to triggers our reaction. When we had that girl does something, everyone starts shivering. Don't shiver, take it easy, but play your part. And the last part I want to share is her relationship with Imam Hassan. She had two set of relationships with Imam Hassan. One relationship of a brother and one relationship of Imam, because Amir al-Mu'minin left the world and Imam Hassan took over. And Islam taught us, your bigger brother or your elders, he is in place of your father, according to Islam. But then that Imam, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, also honored Imam Hassan as her Imam. Now look at this. Bibi Zainab narrated, she said, this is my last point. One day I was sitting, and then I realized my two brothers were busy talking, communicating, they were discussing. So I decided to get closer to hear what they are saying. She said, when I got closer, I realized they were teaching some valuable things that ought to be shared from the Holy Prophets. What is that? She said, I heard them saying, Al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyinun. Wa shubuhatun la ya'lamuha kathirun min an-nas. Majlisi reported this also. So I heard them saying, the Holy Prophet mentioned, and they were discussing, exploring in depth of this tradition, that halal is known and haram is known. Allah, today who doesn't know what is halal and haram? Who doesn't know? If I sit here and said halal, it's just a reminder. Everybody knows what is halal. But he said, وَشُبُهَاتٌ. But alongside the halal and haram, there are some gray areas. Shubuhat, arguments, debates, talkings. Prophet said, Man tarakaha saluha umuru dini. Whoever stay away from these shubuhat, these unnecessary arguments. You see, brothers and sisters, Islam is not a religion of personal opinions. It's a religion of experts. Like the way your field of studies are filled of experts, Islam also is a field of experts. You can talk more of it if you are expert. If you are not expert, yes, you can say I disagree, but you cannot impose your disagreement on someone. If Islam is about everybody's opinion, then there will be chaos. Halalu bayyin, haramu bayyin. But there are some gray areas. وَبَيْنَهُمَا some أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. Between the halal and haram, there are some gray areas that Islam cautions us not to put yourself there too much. So if you stay away from that, صَلُحَ أُمُورُ دِينِهِ وَصَلُحَتْ مُرُوءَتُهُ وَعِرْضُهُ. If you stay away from it, your religion will be perfected. And your dignity and honor will be maintained. But then he said, وَمَنْ تَلَبَّسَ بِهَا. Whoever wants to entertain these shubuhat, these gray areas, تَلَبَّسَ بِهَا, you clothing yourself with it. That is your food. That is your drink. Baba, you cannot make things mustahab if you are not expert. If you want to do that, then become expert. Leave the expert to continue discussing. Yes, you've got the right to talk about it. That's something else. Everybody's got the right. Having right doesn't mean that you can make it a gospel truth. We agree to disagree, isn't it? So Prophet is saying, وَمَنْ تَلَبَّسَ بِهَا. Whoever goes into this shubahat without proper understanding and background, he said, you will be like a shepherd who forces his cattle, excuse my word, or goats, to a boundary where the king says nobody should be there. This is just a saying in that tradition. So he said, if you take them there, then they're going to get slaughtered. Then he said, وَإِنَّ لِكُلِّ مَلِكٍ حِمَى. The Bibi Zainab is reporting that for every king, he has his own boundary. You can get to this, you cannot get. وَحِمَى اللَّهِ مَحَارِمُهُ. And the boundaries of Allah is his haram. What he says haram, that's his boundary. Then Bibi Zainab concluded, said, I heard them saying, أَلَا وَإِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلُحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. So I heard them discussing, Hassan and Hussein, that in our body, physical body, in our system, there is a flesh there. When that flesh is taken care of, the entire body will be taken care of. But when that flesh is corrupted and dirtiness is allowed to affect it, the entire body will go. Then Prophet Allah, wahi al-qalb, and that is your soul and that is your heart. What I'm trying to say is that mu'minin and mu'minat, tarbiyah is a technique, it's a skill. If you don't spend time to understand this skill, you'll cause problem. And it is our duties, it is our responsibilities to ensure that we play our parts in instilling these values that I and you have. Otherwise, children will not be held responsible. We will be held responsible. So when we celebrate in conclusion the life of this great lady, it's just to ask ourselves some difficult questions. You remember I discussed about her Isma. She's not Ma'asum like Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. We discussed that here. But how did she get to that level? Yes, we cannot compare ourselves to the parents of Zainab, but we can learn something from the parent of Zainab. And if we try to do that, Allah Ta'ala will help us. And so, those of you who have very young children, you need to go back to those techniques of Islam, of understanding what to do in the first 7, and what to do in the second 7, and what to do in the third 7. I think it becomes more important today than any other time. That as parents, try to understand, what is it that I should do in that first 7? And what is it that I should do? Yes, we need money. We cannot grow without money. We cannot do, but be careful. Be careful how you go about it. If your children, they know nothing, but just only splendid life, and that is where you pay attention when they realize the way you are, and they realize you don't pay attention to other levels, like reading, then it becomes a problem. Madrasa is going to open. Show concern and priority as parents. If you show concern and priority, your child will pick it up easily. But if you don't do, and you expect the child to become malaika, then it's not going to work out. You have to teach your children by action. It's more effective than by command. And if you don't do, then tomorrow don't blame anyone, blame yourselves. And today you know very well, when it comes to family values, it's not only Islam. I've met so many non-Muslims who are also crying. Seriously. It's not only us Muslims. Because the world is moving very fast. Technology is depriving us of our values. We can't do without it. But even look at yourself as an adult. While I look at myself, sometimes I get nearly slapping myself. How one wastes his time on this. technology. If that is you, what of your children? So therefore, let's try our level best and understand the friends of your children. Know them. Know the type of play they have on their phones. And as I mentioned, that fortnight, I will encourage parents, inshallah, to study it. I've done some studies about it, but I cannot tell you now. Inshallah, during Ayyam Fatimiyah, I will discuss it more. Just look at it, and then you will tell me. Don't think it's just open market. You want to go anyhow. You have to know how you go onto those open markets. And Allah, inshallah, will help you. GCSE, look at how many failed. Some unfortunately committed suicide because of failure. Of course, I have not heard of some Muslim, but they may be. And when the research came out, I don't know whether you've read, I was reading, many of these children spending time on social media, struggling to get best schools to go. It is there out there free. But you have to know how to go about it. So we ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to inspire us and to strengthen us to be able to understand His teachings and instill in our children. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala that the children that He has blessed us with, these are gifts of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. May He grant us the tawfiqat to be able to look after them properly, inshaAllah. May we be able to instill strong human values in our children to become better human beings in their lives, inshallah. And we ask Allah to continue to instill the love of Ahlul Bayt in us, inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.